First Elder, what are you saying? What do you mean by respectable people? Aren't we also respectable people in the independent state? The only thing I can say is that Elder Shui has a weak psyche and is bad at handling bad news. Who can he blame for that? We didn't violate any terms of the treaty. Big Dipper said. That's true. First Elder nodded. Yi Wanwan shrugged. If he's really angered to death, it has nothing to do with me. Say, if he really dies, the direct line won't come to seek revenge from us, right? Big Dipper and First Elder met each other's eyes. Big Dipper looked at Yi Wanwan. Sis Feng. They probably won't seek revenge from First Elder and me. Even if the direct line wants revenge, they'd only seek it from you probably. Yi Wanwan, news of Elder Shui from the direct line being angered to a seriously ill state by the president of the Fearless Alliance spread throughout the entire independent state within half a day. Many groups secretly called Yi Wanwan contemptible and shameless. How old was Elder Shui? He was an old man in his 70s, yet look at how infuriated he was. The leaders who were rescued from the island by Yi Wanwan all shook their heads. They'd personally experienced President Fearless' shamelessness for themselves. Thankfully, they were still young and had high tolerances, or else they would have been sent to their graves in their anger back on the island because of President Fearless. For some reason, those leaders suddenly pitted Elder Shui. This old guy was seriously unlucky. Although he had survived a life of constant strife, those were high-quality struggles. He had probably never encountered someone as shameless and thick-skinned as President Fearless in his whole life. He only had his bad luck to blame. Yi Wanwan didn't pay much attention to the episode with Elder Shui and dragged Big Dipper and some other people back to the Fearless Alliance to transport that valuable table. Sis Feng, we can just have other people do such a minor task. Why do we have to come here ourselves to move it personally? Big Dipper asked. Yi Wanwan shot Big Dipper a glance. Rubbish, it's so precious and valuable. What if they damaged it in the moving process? I wouldn't be able to pay for it even if I sold you. Big Dipper, I'm worth less than a table. They had just moved the table from the treasury when Third Elder's pupils contracted suddenly and he looked ahead. President! Third Elder shouted. What is it? Yi Wanwan reflexively turned to Third Elder. It's the mysterious person who Nia Linglong made contact with. Third Elder pointed ahead of them. Yi Wanwan and Big Dipper followed the direction of Third Elder's finger. A tall figure shrouded in a black robe had appeared in the Fearless Alliance without them knowing. There was an elite from the direct line standing next to the black-robed person. Are you certain it's him, Third Elder? Yi Wanwan questioned. I'm certain. Third Elder nodded vehemently. It's definitely this person, President. I'd recognize him even if he turned into ash. Didn't you say it was too dark that night and you didn't see them clearly? Yi Wanwan expressed her doubt. I didn't see the person clearly, but I recognized the clothes. Third Elder replied. Moreover, this person is with a member of the direct line, so there's no way I'm wrong. Yi Wanwan's gaze latched onto the black-robed person, a cold glint flitting through her eyes. It was this person who discussed with Nia Linglong the plan to eliminate her brother, nameless Nia. If this person hadn't agreed, eldest brother absolutely wouldn't have died. Yi Wanwan didn't waste any words and launched into the air. She gathered a frightening amount of strength into her fist and mercilessly attacked the black-robed person. Not a member of the direct line, you're dead. Upon seeing this, the direct line elite instantly protected the black-robed person and also swung a punch toward Yi Wanwan. Bam! The two fists connected, causing a thunderous boom. The direct line elite was sent flying back, akin to a snipped kite. Damn, Sis Feng is awesome. Fuck him over. Hit him. Big Dipper loudly hollered from the side. You killed my eldest brother. Yi Wanwan stared at the black-robed person centimeters from her. Her entire person was similar to a demon who had crawled out of the deepest pits of hell. I want you dead. As Yi Wanwan spoke, she leaped toward the black-robed person like a ferocious beast. However, the black-robed person stood in their spot, not shifting a step. Boom! Everyone watched as the fist that Yuan put all her might into was nonchalantly caught by the black-robed person. Yuan had to use everything she had to pull her hand back from the black-robed person's grasp. Yuan frowned deeply as she surveyed the black-robed person. This person. The black-robed person slowly walked toward Yuan. Swish! The black-robed person's hand swung through the air. He was so fast he couldn't be seen with the naked eye, and even Yuan couldn't catch a trace of this strike. Reflexively, Yuan crossed both arms in front of herself and forcefully accepted the hit, staggering several steps back. However, Yuan had just stabilized herself when the black-robed person launched another attack. This continued until the fourth exchange of blows, after which Yuan was seized by the black-robed person and couldn't struggle free. Damn! This scene stupefied Big Dipper and Third Elder. They were both aware of their president's fearsome strength. The current president's martial strength surpassed her old selves, and calling her a top-notch expert of the independent state would be putting it lightly. So how come their formidable President Fearless couldn't last more than a few blows from this black-robed person from the direct line? Third Elder, attack! Hit him! Kill him! Big Dipper yelled. Big Dipper, hurry! Save the president! Third Elder also cried hastily. Damn, we'll attack together. Okay. Big Dipper and Third Elder immediately charged toward the black-robed person. However, the results didn't surprise anyone. After a single blow, Third Elder and Big Dipper were knocked to the ground by the black-robed person. I came to the Fearless Alliance to obtain one item. The black-robed person's hoarse voice was heard. It wasn't until then that Yuan confirmed this person was indeed male. Yes, that table is yours, Big Dipper hastily offered. The black-robed man glanced at the table but quickly looked away. Elder Shui's severely ill state has nothing to do with us. We're also members of the Direct Line. We signed an alliance treaty with the Direct Line. Do you want to visit the Arbitration Council? Third Elder's eyes turned. This man was truly too terrifying, and there was no way they could win against him relying on martial strength. I'm not a member of the Direct Line, the black-robed man calmly said. You're not a member of the Direct Line? Everyone was startled. Ha! The man in black snorted. If you want to sue the Direct Line, go ahead. Yuan was contemplative. The information they had said this man most likely wasn't a member of the Direct Line and appeared to be a military consultant who provided strategies for the Direct Line. Could it be he was hired by the Direct Line at a great fee? Hand over the item, sir. Soon, the Direct Line elite knocked down by Yuan's punch stood back up again and returned to the black-robed man's side with a reverent expression. The black-robed man ignored him and focused on Yuan instead. You're not bad. Nya Linglong died in your hands. Yuan's lips curled up. What? Does your heart hurt? Heart hurt? The black-robed man shook his head. She was merely one of my dogs. If she dies, she dies. Before Yuan could respond, the Direct Line elite tied Yuan up and brought her to the Fearless Alliance's prison. As for Third Elder and Big Dipper, they were bound and locked in the office. Inside the prison, the Direct Line elite tied Yuan to a wall and sneered. President Bai, you're the first one to make Sir take action personally. Yuan stared at the black-robed man nearby and didn't respond. President Bai, I'm telling you, be more rational and hand over the item, the Direct Line elite shouted coldly. What item? Yuan was apathetic. The ring, of course, the Direct Line elite answered. It's what the Sir wants. President Fearless, you shouldn't resist futilely. Ha, what a pity. I've destroyed that ring already. Yuan snorted. Before the Direct Line elite could continue, the black-robed man stood up and walked toward Yuan, his gaze quickly landing on Yuan's fiercely clenched fist. The black-robed man shot forward and stared at Yuan. Open your hand or else I'll immediately kill the two people upstairs. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. Having no other choice, she opened her fist. When the black-robed man saw the ring in Yi Wanwan's hand, he cautiously picked it up, appearing to greatly value this ring. Yi Wanwan inwardly snickered. This ring was actually a counterfeit. She previously asked Big Dipper's mother, and the woman told her this ring had nothing to do with the Rose of Death. Ever since Yi Wanwan learned this ring represented supreme power in the Rose of Death, she had hidden it and started wearing this fake, the main purpose being to mislead people. Just now, she intentionally clutched this ring tightly in her hand and pretended she really valued this ring in order to deceive this black-robed man. Yi Wanwan believed this black-robed man had never seen the genuine item. The black-robed man carefully examined the ring. This ring represents misfortune. Return it to me. Yi Wanwan shouted. Only then did the black-robed man look up from the ring and look at Yi Wanwan. However, he ignored her and put the ring on his finger. Sir, is this the ring? The direct line elite asked. It should be, the black-robed man replied. Then, sir, how about you leave first and I'll take care of everything else? A lecherous smile spread across the direct line elite's face as he appraised Yi Wanwan. President Fearless seriously had extraordinary looks. Do you know what I detest the most in my life? The black-robed man calmly questioned. Huh? The direct line elite was startled. I detest men who assault women the most in my life. Before the direct line elite realized what happened, the black-robed man choked him by the neck and a kachak was heard several seconds later as his neck was snapped broken. Chapter 22:20 Could it be piece of shit? Yi Wanwan's brows furrowed deeply as she stared at the black-robed man in front of her. This black-robed man's strength was unfathomable unless it was Yi Shuehan who fought with her. However, Yi Shuehan seemed to also be a member of the direct line. After pocketing the ring, the black-robed man didn't take another look at Yi Wanwan and turned to leave. Several hours later, Third Elder struggled out of the rope around him. After he untied Big Dipper, the two of them made a beeline for the underground prison. Are you okay, Sis Fong? Big Dipper yelled anxiously when he saw the tied-up Yi Wanwan. Don't waste time. Come here and untie me already. Yi Wanwan said. As she spoke, Third Elder had reached her already and started loosening her ropes. Damn, Sis Fong, what happened? Isn't this that elite from the direct line? Big Dipper froze when he saw the corpse by his feet. Just what happened, President? Where's that black-robed man? Third Elder cautiously examined their surroundings. He left already. He was also the one who killed this guy. Yi Wanwan then proceeded to briefly explain everything. After she finished her explanation, Third Elder and Big Dipper stared at each other, bewildered. That black-robed man was truly a ruthless character and would casually kill even his own people. I never expected someone like that to exist in the direct line. Isn't that a bit scary? Third Elder couldn't help but feel scared. If that black-robed man wished it, all of them could have died there today. That's right. I didn't expect Sis Fong to also not be a match for him, Big Dipper nodded frantically. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, Big Dipper thought of something and exclaimed with a surprised expression, Wait, Sis Fong, how did the people from the direct line know we were going to return to the Fearless Alliance today? Could it be we have traitors? Yi Wanwan shot Big Dipper a glance. Traitor your ass. Huh? What do you mean? Big Dipper was dumbfounded. Just like how we inserted many scouts near the direct line's branches, do you think the direct line wouldn't have scouts monitoring us too? Do you think everyone's like you? Yi Wanwan asked. Big Dipper, President, what should we do now? Third Elder inquired a moment later. We'll clean this place up first then head back, Yi Wanwan replied. Around evening, Yi Wanwan, Big Dipper, and Third Elder returned to the Rose of Death's headquarters. When First Elder and the others learned about the incident, they all rushed to Yi Wanwan's office. No way, First Elder looked pensive as he sat on the side. I've never heard about an expert at this level in the direct line. Even the president couldn't withstand a few blows from him. Isn't he too frightening? He's not just frightening, He's simply terrifying. Big Dipper got worked up instantly. You weren't there, but that black-robed man from the direct line sent a punch and a kick and third elder and I were smashed to the ground without room to retaliate. Only Sis Feng could fend off a few blows. Say, do you think that black-robed man was piece of shit? The silent second elder suddenly suggested. Fu Mingxi nodded. My grandfather is right. Yi Wanwan was contemplative. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be Yi Shuihan. With Yi Shuihan's personality, if he really wanted to do something, there was no need to act so covertly. Furthermore, Yi Shuihan's target had always been the ancient clans from the collateral branch. This subordinate admires you. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be related to Yi Shuihan. It was just that. Yi Wanwan couldn't be certain since the black-robed man's martial technique did hold some resemblance to Yi Shuihan. However, it probably isn't piece of shit. After all, piece of shit only holds a grudge against the ancient clans. Big Dipper said after a moment of silence. Not necessarily. 7 Star shook his head. Piece of shit is young master's teacher. So it would make sense if the black-robed man didn't kill you guys because of that relationship. Silence draped over everyone in the room. On the surface, piece of shit only hated the collateral ancient clans, but behind the scenes, no one knew the true story. Yi Wanwan sat in her office chair, pensive. Indeed, Yi Shuihan's biggest target should be those collateral branch ancient clans. However, many years had passed, yet Yi Shuihan still hadn't eradicated those ancient clans. Regardless of how strong Yi Shuihan was, he was merely one person and those collateral ancient clans possessed an abundance of experts and immense power, so it wasn't realistic for Yi Shuihan to eradicate every ancient clan by himself. If Yi Shuihan learned about the Rose of Death's secret and knew about the ring in her possession, which represented the supreme power in the Rose of Death, then would Yi Shuihan want to obtain that ring, become the new leader of the Rose of Death and use the Rose of Death's power to annihilate every ancient clan in the independent state in one move? Of course, all of this was mere conjecture. Yi Wanwan couldn't determine whether the black-robed person and Yi Shuihan were connected and the same person or not yet. Regardless of who it is, don't publicize this matter for now. Yi Wanwan looked at the people in her office as she made the order. Sis Feng, of course we can't publicize it. The mighty president of the Fearless Alliance was crushed by an unknown man in black. If news of this got out, where would I put my pride? I mean, where would the Fearless Alliance put its pride? And how would we stand tall in the independent state from now on? It's too humiliating. Big Dipper said. Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. What can you expect from a hog but a grunt? Prohibiting them from spreading it had nothing to do with being humiliated. If other people learned about such a formidable expert guarding the direct line, their morale would definitely be affected. What would those groups who had joined the collateral branch already think? Moreover, an expert from the direct line sought out President Fearless in the Fearless Alliance simply to steal something. What did he steal? Did he steal it? A lot of speculation would brew, which would damage the collateral branch. Hence, this type of information absolutely couldn't spread and sealing off any leaks of the information was the best strategy. I understand your meaning, President. Everyone present today, lock down the information and don't let it get out. First Elder immediately understood Yi Wanwan's thoughts at a glance. I have to say that the President might be young but she's careful and meticulous. This subordinate truly admires you. Truly, truly admirable. Third Elder immediately exclaimed. Yi Wanwan turned to Third Elder. I believe First Elder knows what I mean, but are you certain you also know, Third Elder? Of course this subordinate knows. How can I not know what First Elder knows? Third Elder hastily replied. Then, what did I mean? Yi Wanwan asked. Third Elder. Videotape. Third Elder looked at Yi Wanwan with a somewhat embarrassed expression. It's actually like this, President. What the President means isn't important, what's important is that the President is wise and gallant and thoughtful and meticulous, Yi Wanwan sighed. This was still truly the Fearless Alliance. Nothing had changed despite the transfer to the rows of death. How long will it be until the direct line and the collateral branch start fighting? Yuanwan asked First Elder a moment later. In the next few days probably. These past 2 days, the direct line and the collateral branch have been testing each other's waters and had several skirmishes already, First Elder replied. Yuanwan nodded. The independent state's peaceful days were completely over. However, strictly speaking, the independent state had never been peaceful. President, what are our plans? First Elder inquired. Fifth Elder glanced at First Elder. Keep wasting time. Lord Azura is a member of the collateral branch, so of course we have to support the collateral branch. What other plans could we have? Then the president is intending to support the collateral branch under the Rose of Death's name? First Elder asked. Yuanwan nodded. That was indeed her plan. Before Yuanwan could act though, the Nya family suddenly announced their support for the collateral branch in their war with the direct line. Following the Nya family's announcement, the Ji family also announced their support for the collateral branch. Amongst the 4 great clans, only the Shin family and the Ling family hadn't acted yet. It wasn't hard to understand the Shin family's silence though. In the independent state, the Shin family were mainly businessmen, so they didn't wish to get entangled in this war between the direct line and the collateral branch. If they rashly expressed their support, they not only have to provide a large sum of money but would also be greatly impacted if the side they supported was defeated. As for the Ling family, Yuanwan knew little about them. The Ling family did originally intend to support the collateral branch, but now that Patriarch and Madame Nya had returned and announced their support for the collateral branch, the Ling family didn't seem to want to be in the same camp as the Nya family due to their previous conflicts. However, 2 days later, the Shin family and the Ling family both announced their support for the collateral branch at the same time. 3 days later, Sis Feng, there's someone here from the Martial Arts Union. They say their president is inviting you to meet at their headquarters, Big Dipper reported to Yuanwan. Yuanwan wrinkled her brows. Si Xia hadn't appeared since his escape from the remote island. She didn't expect him to invite her to visit the Martial Arts Union today. Sis Feng, you aren't really planning to go, right? Big Dipper looked at Yuanwan. I bet the Martial Arts Union is up to no good, seeking you out at a time like this. Of course I won't go. Yuanwan snorted. Tell their president if he wants to see me, then he has to come here personally. Okay. Big Dipper nodded and left. Half a day later, Big Dipper entered the office with a videotape in hand. Sis Feng, this was sent here by the Martial Arts Union. They said there's something you're interested in on the tape and told you to take a look. Big Dipper placed the videotape on the desk. Yuanwan was startled by Big Dipper's words. A videotape sent by the Martial Arts Union? Alright, got it. Yuanwan nodded. After Big Dipper left the office, Yuanwan picked up the videotape and carefully examined it. Based on its appearance, this seemed to be a normal videotape without anything special to it. Chapter 22-23, Grandpa Yuanwan quickly placed the videotape in the machine. She would like to see what the heck Si Xia was up to. Yuanwan turned pensive as she watched the television. This videotape actually contained copies of surveillance footage, but the video quality was fairly clear. It's me, Yuanwan frowned as the video played. The girl who appeared on the TV screen was worryless Nya from a few years ago. Several seconds later, a white-haired elderly man appeared. Grandpa. Yuanwan was astonished. Why did this videotape contain her and Grandpa? Judging from the surveillance footage, it was probably the inside of the Martial Arts Union. Going by the time, it was probably surveillance footage from several years ago. Before Yuanwan could regain her wits, the girl in the video and the elderly man erupted into an intense argument. In the end, the dagger in the girl's hand pierced the elderly man's chest. As Yuanwan watched the video, she froze in her spot, incredulous. She used a dagger and pierced Grandpa's chest. Instantly, Yuanwan knelt down and both familiar and strange memories rushed into her mind. In the Martial Arts Union, the girl pursed her lips as she looked at the strategic elderly man. Grandpa, when will you let me come and help? All my martial techniques are utterly useless. Don't you find it a terrible loss? The elderly man glanced at the girl. If my intelligence is correct, you're the one who built that fearless alliance. The girl's expression shifted. No way. Grandpa, how could I have built it? Are you saying my intelligence is wrong? The elderly man was displeased. Damn Xia. He's the one in charge of the intelligence network. He actually sold me out, the girl fumed with rage. Xia had nothing to do with it. Tell me, why did you build some bullshit fearless alliance and recruit a bunch of ignorant and incompetent old men to act as elders? What in the world were you thinking? The elderly man frowned at her. The girl latched onto the elderly man's arm. Ah. Grandpa, don't you think it's because I'm bored? Anyway, the people I recruited might be ignorant and incompetent and fool around a lot, but at least they're all truly capable. Moreover, I built a group because of you, Grandpa. Because of me? The elderly man glanced at the girl. Tell me, how was it because of me? Grandpa, look, after my faction grows strong, if Grandpa runs into trouble or difficulties one day, I can help you out. Also, didn't you teach me, Grandpa? The strength of one person isn't true power. It's gathering strong people to your side and banding them with you like strands of a rope which represents true power. I'm just acting as Grandpa taught me, the girl explained cheerfully. The elderly man exasperatedly looked at the girl. I probably won't be able to find another person with a mouth like yours in the entire independent state. You can turn the dead into the living and have a skin thicker than the independent state. Grandpa, it's not news that I'm thick-skinned. Don't tell me you just found out, the girl retorted. The elderly man shook his head and didn't say anything else. The scene changed. In some command room, the elderly man was sitting in the center while Xia was sitting in the assistant position. Worryless, I have a task for you. The elderly man spoke while looking at the girl. Recalling the girl glanced at the nearby Xia. Grandpa, I'm not the right one to ask. You should ask the one sitting next to you. You give every good thing to him, is he your real grandson? Sister, what you're saying is wrong. Xia looked at Yuan. I'm Grandpa's deputy, so that's not much different from a real grandson. Blah, you shameless thing. Were you the one who told Grandpa I built the Fearless Alliance last time? The girl fiercely glared at Xia. We might be sister and brother, but work is work, and there needs to be a line between public and private matters. Grandpa told me to investigate it, so what could I have done? Don't blame me if you want someone to blame. Blame Grandpa, Xia replied placidly. The girl's expression changed at once and she pointed at Xia. Good lad, your wings are fully grown now, huh? Alright, just wait. If I don't skin a layer from you, I'm your younger sister, and you're my elder brother. I was wrong, Xia immediately replied. Quiet. The elderly man swept his eyes over the girl and Xia. The girl and boy instantly turned silent. Azura is brazen and audacious and is publicly resisting the martial arts union. I need the Fearless Alliance to act as a spearhead and recruit more factions, the elderly man said to Yuan. Azura? The girl was startled. That's one of the 3 core factions of prison, right? That's right. That's what my intelligence says. Xia nodded. Grandpa. Xia's martial arts skills are good, so how about I pull some elites from the Fearless Alliance and have him lead the team? Xia is part of the intelligence department anyway, so he rarely shows his face and not many people in the independent state know him, Yuan suggested. No. Xia nodded without any hesitation. No. What? You've learned how to resist now. Your sister, want you to do something, and you can't. What use are you? Yuan yelled while pointing at Xia. Sister, that's not what I meant, Xia exasperatedly replied. Actually, the leader of Azura is my ninth uncle. Although we haven't met many times and don't have much affection between us, he's still my uncle, so I won't participate in the war between the Martial Arts Union and Azura. Your uncle? The girl was stunned. Damn, that's too explosive, worryless. What did Grandpa teach you? Look at you. Do you resemble a girl at all? You say damn every other word. Where's your propriety? The elderly man looked at the girl with displeasure. What about it? It's not like you've raised me like a girl since I was young, Grandpa, the girl rebutted. The elderly man wanted to say something but ended up forcibly stifling it. All right, Grandpa, don't be angry. I'll lead the team all right. It's just Azura, I'll annihilate them for you, Grandpa. The girl's lips curled up into a bone-chilling smile. No, you can't underestimate Azura's power. Out of concern for your safety, you can't lead the team. You just need to find a capable person to lead the team, the elderly man refuted. Grandpa, no way. Everyone inside the Fearless Alliance is like my brother. Whether they're old or young, male or female, dumb or clever. I treat them all the same, all right? You're only worried about my safety, but my brothers' lives are also lives, the girl said. Brothers or not, I don't care. I don't care about whether other people live or die, but you have to restrain yourself. Your life is most precious. And it's improper for a girl like you to keep hanging out with those people and calling them brothers. How will you get married in the future? The elderly man reprimanded her angrily. Am I your real granddaughter? At the mention of getting married, the girl was immediately rifled. Grandpa, I absolutely won't get married in my life. What are you saying? The elderly man shot up from his seat. At the sight of the elderly man's fury, the girl cowered instantly. She looked at her grandpa and grinned. Grandpa. I won't get married, but I'll marry someone, all right? I'll marry someone who's both handsome and filial. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Sister, if you keep acting like this, I think it'll be hard for you to find someone. Si Xia shook his head. Come here, say that again. The girl sneered as she pressed down on Si Xia's shoulder. Sister, I'm just telling the truth. With your good looks, there aren't many people in the independent state who are worthy of you. Is there a problem with that? It really will be hard for you to find someone, Si Xia expressionlessly said. Lad, you're clever. Or else I would have beaten you to death already. The girl snorted. Upon seeing the elderly man about to say something again, the girl continued, Grandpa, don't rush it, all right? I have someone I like already, you know that. I won't marry anyone but him in my life. Oh. The elderly man was interested instantly, as though the girl's romantic affairs were more important than the battle with Azura. Tell me about it, whose child is it? The elderly man asked the girl with a smile. Si Xia answered before the girl could, Grandpa, it's Emperor Ji. Who told you to answer? Don't I have a mouth? Can't I answer? The girl fiercely glared at Si Xia. Sorry, it's a habit, Si Xia replied. Ji Shuran, is it? The elderly man was pensive. Grandpa, of course it's Ji Shuran. Who else in the independent state but Ji Shuran could catch my eye? The girl asked. Ji Shuran, would take a liking to you? The elderly man looked doubtful. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm the girl, Si Xia, Grandpa, can I confirm something? The girl looked at the elderly man. Confirm what? The elderly man was puzzled. Am I your real granddaughter? You didn't pick me up from a garbage can, right? Displeasure was written all over the girl's face. What do you mean, would Ji Shuran take a liking to me? Why wouldn't he take a liking to me? I'm a daughter of the Nye family, the real granddaughter of the Martial Arts Union's president, and also the president of the Fearless Alliance. Would my identity be a loss to Ji Shuran, huh? Grandpa, sister won't have a hard time getting married, so don't be so worried. It's a generational gap thing. Si Xia spoke up. Half a year later, the conflict between the martial arts union and Azura completely erupted, and the Fearless Alliance was at the forefront, launching a ferocious attack on Azura. Following the addition of the Fearless Alliance, many different factions joined as well, wanting to take a share of the loot. Yi Wanwan didn't recognize the memories after that. The scene changed again. Inside the command room, the girl looked at the elderly man, her fists tightly clenched. "Grandpa, how can you be like this?" "No, you absolutely can't." The elderly man glanced at the girl. "Don't interfere in this matter." "Grandpa, aren't we blessed right now? Why do you want to start a war?" The girl couldn't understand anything as she looked at the elderly man. I told you, it's not your business," the elderly man shouted. "But, Grandpa, the Nya family has my parents and my brother," the girl shook her head. "Grandpa naturally has plans for your brother. He's your brother but also my grandson." "Do you think Grandpa would harm him?" the elderly man asked apathetically. "Even if you won't harm brother." "Grandpa, what about my parents?" the girl pressed. "The zenith of power, how many times have I told you? They aren't your parents. They aren't worthy." The elderly man shouted harshly, "Why do you care for disloyal and dishonest people like them?" "Grandpa, I know what happened between you and Dad and Mom, and they were in the wrong, but so many years have passed. I believe they also want to sincerely apologize to you." "Grandpa, let's go home, all right? Let's go to the Nya residence and reunite with Dad, Mom, and brother. If we've lost even our home, what point is there for you to dominate the entire independent state?" The girl looked distressed. She didn't know why her grandpa would have this kind of ambition and why he wasn't satisfied by his position as the president of the martial arts union. He actually wanted to dominate and rule over the entire independent state. The martial arts union's power was above the 4 great clans and was merely beneath the collateral ancient clans. Wasn't this enough? "Grandpa, what's so good about dominating the independent state?" "The zenith of power will make people lose their reason," the girl advised earnestly. "Domination," the elderly man's eyes sparkled with an indescribable light. The elderly man turned to the girl. "Worryless, do you know what the zenith of power is?" "It's freedom." "Grandpa, aren't we free right now? We can do whatever we want, so why must we reach the zenith of power?" The girl couldn't understand. "Freedom isn't doing whatever you want." The elderly man shook his head. "True freedom isn't doing whatever you don't want to do." "Grandpa, you're speaking too profoundly." "I don't understand," the girl responded. "Even so, why do we need so many sacrifices? Why does it have to be the 4 great clans? Moreover, if you really did this, Grandpa, the Arbitration Council absolutely wouldn't let you go." "The Arbitration Council?" The elderly man mockingly chuckled. "Every state in the 12 independent states is under the Arbitration Council's governance, but what have they contributed to the 12 independent states? Why do they get the say in every state's rules and systems?" The girl was at a loss for words. "Worryless, remember, aside from dominating the entire independent state, Grandpa also wants to completely lock down the independent state and seclude it from the world so that the Arbitration Council can't interfere with anything in our independent state anymore," the elderly man calmly said. The girl didn't object to this. If Grandpa really started implementing his plan, he'd definitely succeed. He had purchased a lot of weapons and explosives from the outside world, so the Arbitration Council would be at the end of their tether even if they wanted to interfere at that time. "Anyway, Ji Xiuran, that bastard abandoned you too, so I'll bomb the Ji family too. I'll turn the 4 great clans into ash." The elderly man's eyes shimmered coldly. "No. Grandpa, you absolutely can't." The girl looked resolute. Why can't I? If that bastard comes here right now and kowtows and apologizes to you, I might consider sparing his life. Is my granddaughter a person other people can bully however they want?" the elderly man yelled. "Grandpa, you purchased a lot of explosives saying you wanted to annihilate the 4 great clans, but in truth, you wanted to intimidate people. The ancient clans have the advantage in numbers and are divided into the direct line and the collateral branch. Grandpa, you want to use the destruction of the 4 great clans to intimidate the direct line and the collateral branch and make them submit to you. The girl's voice wavered as she spoke. Worryless, you're right. The elderly man didn't deny it and nodded. The direct line and the collateral branch are considered the strongest fighting forces in the independent state. As long as they submit to Grandpa, help Grandpa resist the Arbitration Council, and we use Grandpa's supply of weapons, we can lock the Arbitration Council out and keep the entire independent state under lockdown. From then on, Grandpa will determine every rule in the independent state. Bomb me along with Grandpa, is what you're saying all there is? The girl inquired. Grandpa's ambitions were truly too great. He absolutely wouldn't be doing all this just to take over the independent state. The elderly man sank into silence. A while later, he finally responded, worryless, Grandpa's objective wasn't just the independent state naturally. Just what in the world are you trying to do, Grandpa? The girl realized that the grandpa in front of her had suddenly turned into a stranger. I want to rule over the 12 independent states and drive out or destroy the Arbitration Council, the elderly man answered. I understand. Yi Wanwan nodded. Grandpa. You want to turn the 12 independent states into one country. Grandpa, you want to become the emperor. Is that bad? The elderly man asked. Since ancient times, the Son of Heaven has been venerated. Grandpa's old, so how many more years can I live? It will all belong to you in the future. Grandpa, I don't want it. I'm not interested. My biggest wish is for our family to live safely and harmoniously together. Domination, Son of Heaven, Emperor, I'm not interested in any of that. The girl frantically shook her head. Grandpa, stop this mistake. Mistake? The elderly man frowned deeply. Are you saying Grandpa has made a mistake? That's right, the girl firmly insisted. Then tell me, what mistake did Grandpa make? The elderly man looked at the girl. An achiever doesn't bother with trifles. Since ancient times, countless achievers stepped across piles of skeletons to ascend to the peak. Did they all make a mistake? Before the girl had a chance to respond, the elderly man continued, if Grandpa governed the 12 independent states, things would only improve. The girl wanted to say something but couldn't find a good rebuttal. The girl didn't think the 12 independent states would decline under Grandpa's governance, considering his abilities. The girl also believed it would only improve if Grandpa governed it. But the price for it was too great. And the people who would be sacrificed included her family. These past few years, the Arbitration Council held iron control over the 12 independent states and ruled over it without dissent. They can't provide the freedom that Grandpa wants, so Grandpa has to take it himself. Your parents are disloyal and dishonest and don't deserve to be people. They've never taken care of you since you were young, and it was Grandpa who raised you, grain by grain. Now, you want to turn your back on Grandpa for those parents who never cared about you? The elderly man's brows furrowed deeply. Grandpa. I know you haven't done anything wrong, the girl stared at the elderly man. From your viewpoint and position, you have your reasons and there aren't any issues with destroying the 4 great clans. But from my position, I'm not wrong either. Regardless of whether they've cared for me and regardless of whether I hold affections toward them, they are my parents after all, and I'm just a normal person. I don't have Grandpa's great ambitions and lofty aspirations. I will return to the Nye residence now. If Grandpa wants to bomb it, then you will have to bomb me along with it. After saying that, the girl turned to leave. Stop right there. The elderly man blocked her path immediately. Why do you have to make Grandpa worry? You're my granddaughter. Grandpa wouldn't harm you even if it meant I died, don't you understand? But, what about my parents? They're also Grandpa's children, the girl said. Shut up. The elderly man's face filled with rage. They don't deserve to live. Can T give it to you? The girl looked at the elderly man in incomprehension. Even if Grandpa didn't care about father's life, what about mother? She was his real daughter. Worryless, I never told you this, but do you know what your parents did? The elderly man looked at the girl a moment later as he tried to calm down. The girl shook her head. She always thought this hostility originated from Grandpa disagreeing with mother and father's marriage. You should know that I managed the Nya family single-handedly, right? The elderly man asked. I do. Back then, the Nya family declined, and I used everything I had to drag the Nya family out of the mud. At that time, the Ling family caused all sorts of trouble for the Nya family. Since the previous generation, the Nya family and the Ling family have been enemies, and your grandma was killed by someone from the Ling family during one of our battles, the elderly man explained calmly. The girl was clearly startled. She really didn't know about this incident. After your parents got married, your mother actually handed the position of the Nya family head to your father, and the two of them teamed up to kick me out of the Nya family. What right do disloyal, unfilial, and corrupt people like them have to be worthy of being my children and your parents? Tell me. The elderly man looked at her. The girl was silent. She hadn't known about these past events. However, no matter what, father's surname was Nya now. Even if her parents got married, it didn't mean the Nya family had fallen into the hands of the Ling family, especially since father had severed his ties with the Ling family. Before Yuan Wan could continue, the elderly man seriously said, "Give your ring to me." The ring, the girl frowned deeply. The ring she had represented the most supreme leadership in the Rose of Death. It absolutely couldn't fall into Grandpa's hands. Grandpa. I can't give this ring to you, the girl shook her head. Once this ring ended up in Grandpa's hands, the consequences would be inconceivable. Worryless, if you don't want to die, then hand the ring over to me. The elderly man marched toward the girl. I can't. Aunt gave this ring to me. Aunt said no one else can get a hold of this ring. The girl gritted her teeth and moved back. I told you to give it to me. The elderly man was enraged and made to grab her. The girl swiftly evaded him. I heard you went under the tutelage of a master on the outside. Your martial arts skills have indeed improved rapidly these past 2 years. The elderly man pensively surveyed the girl. Grandpa. Don't force me. I really can't give this ring to you, the girl cried. If she allowed Grandpa to have this ring, it wouldn't only be a disaster for the independent state, all 12 of the independent states would be implicated. She absolutely couldn't give this ring to Grandpa. Worryless, are you bent on opposing Grandpa? The elderly man asked. Grandpa, I'm not opposing you, the girl shook her head. Nice, Worryless has grown up. The elderly man suddenly tossed a dagger to her. If you can defeat Grandpa, then Grandpa will listen to you. Are you serious? The elderly man's words caused the girl's eyes to brighten. She frequently sparred with Grandpa. Although she had never won, she had to fight even if she only had 1,000th of a chance. She couldn't allow Grandpa to keep sinking into the pit and continue his mistake. The truth behind domination, of course, the elderly man replied. Correspondingly, if you lose, you have to hand over that ring which represents the supreme power in the Rose of Death to me. The girl was silent for a moment before nodding and finally agreeing. Grandpa, be careful. The girl turned into a shadow and charged toward the elderly man with the dagger in hand. However, the girl had just reached the elderly man when he attacked with his shoulder and slammed the girl into the air. After she stabilized herself, she didn't retreat and swung her dagger again to attack him. How about this? If you can strike me within 3 blows, it'll be considered my loss. The elderly man stood in his spot with his arms behind his back. Okay. The girl agreed, her moves turning swifter and fiercer. However, the first 2 moves were all easily broken by the elderly man. She didn't appear to have any winning chance against Grandpa. You have 1 remaining chance, the elderly man declared coldly. The girl gritted her teeth. She was well aware that she had to attack a 3rd time or else, she would lose without a doubt. In the blink of an eye, the girl pulled off the ring from her finger and wanted to destroy it with the dagger. You dare. The elderly man grew furious and struck the girl, putting every bit of strength in his hand. The elderly man was as fast as a breeze of wind, difficult to locate with the naked eye. In a fraction of a second, the girl reflexively counterattacked with the dagger. However, the elderly man suddenly stopped his ferocious attack a millisecond before his palm hit the girl. Under the girl's incredulous gaze, she couldn't control the dagger in her hand as she wanted, and it penetrated his chest. Blood trailed down the dagger and dripped onto the ground. The girl started shaking, her hold around the dagger loosening at once. At that moment, feather-light and odd-sounding footsteps came from outside the door. Her mind turned blank, and she immediately dashed outside without a clear direction. The scene changed. At some wild area in the independent state, worryless Nya, you killed Grandpa. Si Xia's figure was akin to a glacier. My debt to Grandpa was heavier than a mountain. He raised me to adulthood, and I hadn't had time to pay him back yet, and you killed him. Grandpa's dead? The girl's expression became terrified, and she frantically shook her head. Impossible. Although I hurt Grandpa with the dagger, it absolutely couldn't have been fatal with the condition of Grandpa's body. Also, the dagger didn't pierce any vital spots, so how could Grandpa be dead? She continued, Si Xia, did you know Grandpa's plan? Why didn't you stop Grandpa? Worryless Nya, none of this is important anymore. Si Xia stared at the girl and knelt down in front of her a second later. Worryless Nya, back then, it was you and Grandpa who saved me, so I also owe you a life. As Si Xia spoke, he kowtowed 3 times to Yuan Wan. This time, I won't make you pay. Consider this as me repaying you with your life. These 3 kowtows represent the severance of our ties. The girl stood in her spot and didn't say anything. Worryless Nya, you're a traitor. You betrayed Grandpa and me. You could bear to even kill Grandpa, who loves you the most. You aren't human, you're a demon. You're a demon who climbed out from an abyss, Si Xia declared coldly. Bullshit, the girl screamed angrily. Ha, Si Xia's lips turned up. Do you know why Grandpa wanted to dominate the 12 independent states and why Grandpa wanted to destroy the Arbitration Council? Si Xia continued, not giving the girl a chance to respond. The Arbitration Council is extremely wary of the Rose of Death, and the Arbitration Council knew the previous Black Widow was a distant relative of the Nya family. Hence, the Arbitration Council laid pressure on Grandpa and made Grandpa eliminate the Black Widow no matter what. Some time ago, Grandpa set up a plot and trapped Black Widow, and she finally died in the independent state. Originally, this matter would have been settled, but you accepted that damn ring. Chapter 2230, What do you mean? The girl asked. What do I mean? Si Xia snorted. You accepted that ring, which means you're the new leader of the Rose of Death. The Arbitration Council learned about this, so they wanted Grandpa to personally kill you, snatch the ring and hand it over to the Arbitration Council. What? The girl was stunned. The first time, Grandpa had no choice. As the president of the Independent States Martial Arts Union, he was bound by the Arbitration Council and couldn't resist. But this time, because of you, Grandpa finally decided to take over the independent state and oppose the Arbitration Council, Si Xia coldly explained. What? Why didn't Grandpa tell me? The girl exclaimed in shock. Tell you? Si Xia shook his head. Because Grandpa didn't want you to know this matter was related to you and didn't want you to get involved. This plan might have succeeded, but it might have also failed. He didn't tell you because he was afraid you'd feel guilty and blame yourself if it failed and was afraid it'd bring harm to you. But Grandpa's concerns were unnecessary. How could an apathetic and heartless person like you feel guilt and self-reproach? Soon, everything turned into nothing and darkness returned. Yuan Wan felt someone madly shaking her. Sis Feng, what's wrong with you? Damn. You aren't dead, right, Sis Feng? Don't scare me. Sis Feng, are you okay? Yuan Wan slowly opened her eyes and saw the panicked Big Dipper. Stop shaking, alright? Yuan Wan's brows furrowed deeply. Sis Feng, you aren't dead. Big Dipper's expression turned joyous when he saw Yi Wanwan opening her eyes. Yi Wanwan didn't say anything and stood up from the floor, sitting on the sofa. She finally remembered everything. However, this type of memory, she neither wanted it nor was willing to accept it. How could she have killed Grandpa? That dagger was the weapon she typically used to spar with Grandpa and wasn't sharp at all. Although Yi Wanwan felt agony and self-reproach inside, she was incredibly calm. On the island, Si Xia claimed she wanted to gain domination over the independent state, but it appeared he merely wanted to enrage her. There was only one sincere line that Si Xia said on the island: she was a demon. When she first discovered she killed Grandpa, she couldn't endure the pain and didn't think deeply about it, intent on seeking death. However, many years had passed, and Yi Wanwan could calmly ponder it now. There were indeed too many unanswered questions. In the video, although her grandpa was pierced in the chest by her dagger, he didn't die immediately. After she escaped, Grandpa used the walls and door to walk out very weakly. Based on what Si Xia said, Grandpa died outside the door. Back then, she thought Grandpa died from losing too much blood after being pierced by the dagger. Now though, that's not right. Yi Wanwan suddenly shot up. Big Dipper jolted in fright. What isn't right? Where isn't it right? Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. She still recalled one particular detail. After she injured Grandpa with the dagger back then, she distinctly heard feather-light footsteps coming from outside, which was why she lost her cool and fled in her blank state. Back then, she thought these footsteps belonged to someone from the martial arts union who needed something from Grandpa. If it was really a member of the martial arts union, they definitely would have realized Grandpa was injured and saved him, so dying from losing too much blood was impossible. However, if it wasn't a member of the martial arts union, who could it have been? Outsiders couldn't enter the martial arts union, only members could unless a top-notch expert snuck inside without anyone noticing. Chapter 2231 The culprit is someone else, President. Before Yi Wanwan could think about it more deeply, Third Elder pushed the door open and entered. What is it? Yi Wanwan turned to Third Elder. President, there's an old man here asking to see you by name, Third Elder replied. By name? Yi Wanwan was startled. Which name and which surname? He said he wants to see the old president's granddaughter, Worryless Nye. Third Elder appeared to have guessed what Yi Wanwan was thinking. Got it. Bring him inside, Yi Wanwan agreed with a nod. A moment later, an elderly man walked into the office and examined Yi Wanwan for a long while. Leave, Yi Wanwan said to Big Dipper and Third Elder. They nodded and walked out of the office, closing the door behind them. Are you, really the old president's granddaughter, Worryless Nye? The elderly man inquired with a hint of misgiving. The genuine one, Yi Wanwan answered. As they say, a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. You're different than before. The elderly man sighed. May I sit down? Sit, Yi Wanwan said. The elderly man sat down on a chair before asking, Worryless, do you still remember me? May I ask who you are? Yi Wanwan wrinkled her brows. She really didn't have any recollection of this elderly man. Years ago, I was responsible for the inner security system in the martial arts union. My name is Wang Lai, the elderly man replied. Wang Lai, Yi Wanwan looked pensive. A moment later, her expression shifted. Your Uncle Wang. Back then, there was indeed a member named Wang Lai in the martial arts union. When Yi Wanwan was bored, she frequently sought him out to get her hands on some gossip. That's right, Worryless. I didn't expect you to still remember me, Wang Lai nodded. Why did you seek me out this time, Uncle Wang? Yi Wanwan cut straight to the chase. Wang Lai sank into silence and slowly began a long while afterward. This matter has been hidden in my heart for many years. I've actually been searching for you all this time. Thankfully, the Nye family recently announced that President Fearless was Worryless Nye, so I found out you were back. I visited the Fearless Alliance several times, but the Fearless Alliance was emptied, and I didn't see you when I camped near the Nye residence. In the end, I heard you might be here, Uncle Wang, let's not beat around the bush. What is the matter? Yi Wanwan asked. Worryless, it's about the old president. Wang Lai sighed. Grandpa. Yi Wanwan looked at Wang Lai. Tell me. Back then, the new president said you killed the old president, but actually, that's not the case. Wang Lai looked emotional. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. That's not the case. Correct. Wang Lai nodded with conviction. Worryless, you did injure the old president, but the culprit who killed the old president was someone else. Who? Yi Wanwan hastily pressed. I'm not certain about this part. Wang Lai looked sorrowful. Back then, I was hiding in a secret spot and saw you running out, then the old president followed you outside, covered in blood. I was really worried and wanted to dash toward him to check on his injuries, but suddenly, a mysterious person wearing a black robe appeared. It was him. He killed the old president. Yi Wanwan's expression changed. Could it be that black-robed man from the direct line? Later, the new president acceded to the position. I wondered if it was the new president who killed the old president in order to get promoted. I was scared, so I withdrew from the martial arts union. Sigh, it's my fault for being too cowardly. If I had the courage to stand up and fight with the black-robed person back then, perhaps the old president wouldn't have died. It's all my fault. Chapter 2232 The Northern Battlegrounds. Yi Wanwan glanced at Wang Lai. If he was more courageous back then, she probably wouldn't be able to see him now. Miss Worryless, you must be careful. The new president claims you're the old president's killer, but I feel it's possible the true killer is the new president. Of course, this is just a possibility and my personal speculation, Wang Lai warned her. Yi Wanwan nodded calmly. After Wang Lai left, Yi Wanwan fell into contemplation. Back then, she merely thought she injured Grandpa and never thought Grandpa would die, since that little wound couldn't even be considered a serious injury to Grandpa. After injuring Grandpa, her mind turned blank and she didn't know how to face Grandpa, which was why she fled from the martial arts union. She never expected to later learn from Si Xia that Grandpa was killed by her. Just now, Wang Lai suspected Si Xia to be Grandpa's true killer, but Yi Wanwan didn't think so. First of all, Yi Wanwan had a fair understanding of Si Xia. Si Xia's affections for Grandpa ran very deep, and he was basically raised by Grandpa since he was young. Even if they took a step back and Si Xia really intended to kill Grandpa, that wasn't too realistic considering Si Xia's strength. Grandpa might have been injured by her at that time, but Si Xia still wasn't a match for Grandpa. However, if it was as Wang Lai said, and it was that black-robed person. At the Fearless Alliance headquarters last time, Yi Wanwan exchanged blows with that black-robed man from the direct line. That man's strength was unfathomable. If the black-robed person that Wang Lai spoke of was the same black-robed person from the direct line, then, it wasn't impossible that the black-robed man killed Grandpa, based on his strength. However, this was mere conjecture, and Yi Wanwan couldn't be certain. What she was certain of was that Grandpa's death was related to a black-robed person. She merely couldn't ascertain whether this black-robed person was the same black-robed person who stole her ring. Xiao Feng. Before Yi Wanwan could mull over this anymore, Autumn Water entered. Not long after the Rose of Death was established, Yi Wanwan sent Autumn Water to their headquarters to manage it. Yi Wanwan gathered her thoughts and looked at Autumn Water. Is there any news from the direct line or the collateral branch? Autumn Water nodded and replied, both sides are locked in a fierce struggle and the battleground is situated in the northern front. Many factions from the independent state have headed there and joined this battle already. What about piece of shit? Yi Wanwan asked. He hasn't been spotted yet. Autumn Water shook her head. The current situation is a bit chaotic. When will we depart, Xiao Feng? Autumn Water, use the Rose of Death's name to announce support for the collateral branch, Yi Wanwan instructed. Okay. Autumn Water nodded and left. That day, the Rose of Death publicized its unconditional support of the collateral branch and its resistance toward the direct line. At the same time, every member of the Rose of Death made its way to the northern front and arrived at the battlegrounds in the afternoon. The war between the direct line and the collateral branch was more intense than Yi Wanwan anticipated. After arriving at the northern battlegrounds, Yi Wanwan first met up with Si Yihan and the others. On the northern front, prison didn't mingle with the other factions, and even their war room was located in a different place. Currently, inside the conference room, Si Yihan was sitting in the chief seat and listening to Jiang Lihan's babbling analysis for the situation without making a single comment. Chapter 2233 It's not as warm as your arms. Meanwhile, Yi Wanwan sat next to Si Yihan and nearly fell asleep. Say. Can't you guys respect me a little? Jiang Lihan's gaze landed on Yi Wanwan. Especially worryless Nye. I'm analyzing the current situation, can't you look at me and express some opinions? If you want to sleep, go home and sleep. Yi Wanwan shifted her eyelids and yawned before looking at Jiang Lihan in bewilderment. Your analysis is very correct. The corners of Jiang Lihan's brows twitched. I haven't freaking started analyzing anything yet. I've just been giving a summary of the situation. Oh, Yi Wanwan nodded. Your summary analysis is very good. You. Jiang Lihan turned to Si Yihan, fuming with rage between gritted teeth. Ajo, can't you control your woman? She's at least one of prison's 4 core factions now. Can't she be less half-hearted? Si Yihan glanced at Yi Wanwan. Should I get a blanket for you? No need. No matter how warm a blanket is, it's not as warm as your arms, Yi Wanwan replied softly. Si Yihan hummed. Jiang Lihan looked at Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan, dumbfounded. Why are these two here? Did they come here to fight a battle or go on a date? Isn't their atmosphere a bit inappropriate? Jiang Lihan stared at Si Yihan incredulously. This man wasn't the Ajo in his memory anymore. Continue. Si Yihan told Jiang Lihan. Jiang Lihan sighed exasperatedly and had no choice but to continue. Right now, the direct line and the collateral branch haven't gone all out in their offense yet. For example, people like piece of shit from the direct line haven't appeared yet and the collateral branch also hasn't shown all of its trump cards yet. Moreover, the martial arts union has yet to announce their support of either side. The martial arts union's strength can't be underestimated, so it'd be a problem if something unforeseen occurred. Si Yihan nodded, his gaze fixed on Yi Wanwan still. Is that all? Si Yihan finally asked after waiting for a while as Jiang Lihan didn't say anything else. Yes, that's all, Jiang Lihan replied. We know everything you said already. Si Yihan paused in thought for a moment. The direct line is situated on the border between the northern region and the independent state. If the direct line's army steps inside the boundaries, it'd be the same as entering the independent state. Right now, the most important objective is to guard the border. As soon as Si Yihan finished speaking, Yi Wanwan started clapping. What baby said is too awesome. His single sentence is clearer than that ugly freak's non-stop rambling. Si Yihan nodded lightly. Who are you calling ugly freak? Jiang Lihan angrily glared at Yi Wanwan. You have late-stage eye cancer. Yi Wanwan was speechless. Was this idiot only ever focused on his appearance? She was clearly trying to say his analysis skills were bad, alright? Ajo, so you're saying prison should head to the border right now? Xie Qianchuan was contemplative. Si Yihan answered, Alright, I understand Ajo's meaning. We really can't allow the direct line to break through the border. Let's go prep. After saying that, Xie Qianchuan stood up and left. Jiang Lihan glared at Yi Wanwan with a harumph before following Xie Qianchuan and leaving. Baby, I'll also go set up. Yi Wanwan made to leave. You don't need to go, Si Yihan suddenly said. Yi Wanwan was startled. Why didn't she need to go? Baby, aren't you worrying too about me? I'm the president of the Fearless Alliance. Yi Wanwan pouted. Eating her sense of shame for food, Si Yihan looked at Yi Wanwan. So which side does the Fearless Alliance support? Of course it's, Yuan paused. Fuck me. The Fearless Alliance supported, the freaking Direct Line. She was President Fearless, so she definitely couldn't lead the Rose of Death to attack the Direct Line. You can make commands with a walkie-talkie, Si Yihan suggested. Yuan, this was a battle that concerned the future of the independent state, but she couldn't show her face and could only make commands using a walkie-talkie. 2 days later, a large-scale battle erupted on the border. The 3 core factions of prison appeared at the same time and destructively attacked the Direct Line. After that, more and more factions joined the battle, including piece of shit, Shuehan. Following Yi Shuehan's appearance, the situation took a turn, and members of the collateral ancient clans suffered serious casualties, continuously forced back in defeat by the Direct Line. However, the only fortunate part was that Yi Shuehan didn't attack any factions aside from the collateral ancient clans. Like Yi Shuehan said before, he merely targeted the ancient clans from the collateral branch. At noon that day, to the surprise of the Direct Line and prison, Yuan actually went to the border as the Fearless Alliance's representative and ran over to the Direct Line's camp. In the Direct Line's camp, Yuan finally saw the clan leader of the Direct Line, an elderly man past his 50s, Jiang Ying. In the Direct Line's camp, Jiang Ying expressionlessly looked at Yuan. Why did you come here, President Bai? Yuan grinned and pulled out the alliance treaty. Clan leader, what are you saying? My Fearless Alliance signed an alliance treaty with the Direct Line. I came here to fulfill my obligations. Several elderly men from the Direct Line angrily glared at Yuan. This woman nearly angered one of their higher-ups, Elder Shua, to death. Now, she came here as if nothing happened and said she wanted to support the Direct Line and fulfill her obligations. Weren't you going to sue the Direct Line at the Arbitration Council? Jiang Ying asked. That's a different matter. You didn't fulfill your obligations, but I have to fulfill mine, am I right? Yuan cheerfully replied. Fulfill what obligations? What use is it to only have you on our side? A higher-up demanded. I can't do anything about that. I'm the only one left in the Fearless Alliance. I'd also like to bring a giant army here, but they've been subsumed under that knockoff Rose of Death. Speaking of which, isn't the Direct Line to blame for this? Yet you're making a fuss about this? Why are you this shameless? Yuan glanced at the elderly man who spoke. The elderly man's face flushed red from Yuan's retort. He wanted nothing more than to mangle Yuan into pieces. Yuan's lip curled up into an indescribable smile. She came here today simply because she was worried about Si Yihan and the others. Since she couldn't appear with the brand Rose of Death above her, she'd appear as the president of the Fearless Alliance. Anyway, she signed an alliance treaty with the Direct Line, so they wouldn't carelessly harm her. Alright, since you have those intentions, President Bai, help yourself. However, I still have to remind you to not make any ill-advised moves on the battleground between the Direct Line and the collateral branch or else you'll only injure yourself. After saying that, Jiang Ying turned and left. The next morning, Yuan followed the Direct Line's army and appeared on the battleground. This fucking Direct Line wants to use me as cannon fodder, huh? Yuan chortled. Unfortunately, she simply came here to watch a show, so the Direct Line would be daydreaming if they wanted to use her as cannon fodder. Purebred idiot at this moment, many factions from the independent state were gathered near the border. This included the 4 great clans, the 3 core factions of prison, the Rose of Death, the Ancients clans from the collateral branch, etc. When everyone saw Yuan mixed into the side of the Direct Line ancient clans, they were startled. Worryless, what are you doing? Patriarch Nya yelled with a frown. Dad, we're from different camps, so we'll each serve our own masters. Yuan shouted back. Damn. She really is something. In order to go to the battleground to watch the show, she's tossed away her pride and actually make her way to the Direct Line's army. I have to give it to her. Jiang Lihan gave her a thumbs up. Si Yihan stared at Yuan for a long while but didn't say anything in the end. It wasn't a big deal that Yuan infiltrated the direct line since he already gave instructions to the collateral branch. No one would bother Yuan, so she could have some fun and watch the show if she wanted to. The direct line and the collateral branch didn't waste any words and started fighting. Yuan was incredibly free on the battleground. The people from the direct line left her alone while the people from the collateral branch also ignored her completely. When Yuan was about to sit back and crack some seeds, she saw Big Dipper entering a grapple with someone from the direct line and was soon struck to the ground. Yuan rapidly dashed up and blocked the direct line expert. "President Bai, what are you doing?" the direct line expert demanded coldly when he saw Yuan. "You traitor, I've finally caught you." Yuan shouted at Big Dipper instead, ignoring the direct line expert. Big Dipper's eyes shifted. "President, I'm turning into a traitor. I want to join the direct line." Yuan was stunned and inwardly cursed out Big Dipper and the last 18 generations of his ancestors. He's a purebred idiot. At a time like this, he should act like he'd rather die than submit, then she'd explode with wrath and make the direct line expert hand Big Dipper over to her to take care of. However, after hearing, "I'm turning into a traitor," from Big Dipper, Yuan didn't know how to respond next. "Ha! President Bai, I'll take care of a fence-sitter like him for you." The direct line expert snorted and started walking forward. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yuan promptly caught the direct line expert unaware and kicked him to the ground. Upon seeing this, Big Dipper agilely leaped up and pounced onto the direct line expert, bestowing a flurry of punches on the man. "Bai Feng, you're violating the Arbitration Council's alliance treaty," the direct line expert yelled. "Be quiet. Stuff his mouth for me," Yuan ordered hastily. "Okay." Big Dipper immediately clutched the direct line expert's mouth and made him lose consciousness with a few more punches. "You idiot," Yuan shot Big Dipper a glance. Big Dipper was startled, confusion filling his face. "How was I an idiot?" "Quiet. Thank goodness there aren't a lot of people here. Do you know what a big freaking risk I took to save you?" Yuan couldn't control the fury surging in her. Big Dipper snickered and didn't dare to respond. If this incident was discovered by people from the direct line, the consequences would be inconceivable. She would obviously be outed as a spy. Yuan merely wanted to watch the show, but she might turn from a show watcher into a traitor. How exciting. "Don't worry, Sis Feng. He's my hostage, so I'll definitely make sure he can't say anything. I'll leave now." After saying that, Big Dipper picked up the unconscious direct line expert and disappeared into the fray. The battle continued. Faced with wave upon wave of experts from the collateral branch, Yi Shuihan was evidently getting exhausted. Although Yi Shuihan solely targeted the ancient clans from the collateral branch, it didn't mean other factions wouldn't attack Yi Shuihan. "Quietly watch me perform soon," the black-robed man from the direct line finally joined the battle. Following the black-robed man's appearance, the direct line instantly intensified their attack in an attempt to break through the order in a spurt of energy. However, experts from the collateral ancient clans swarmed out like a hornet's nest, and the northern battlefield turned into a pit of carnage and bloodshed, resulting in countless fatalities. On the battlefield, Yuan's eyes glinted chillingly as she stared at the black-robed man. This man not only caused her brother's death, and might also be her grandpa's killer. "I'd like to see just who you are." Yuan yelled and swiftly shot toward the black-robed man. "Bai Feng, what are you doing?" An expert from the direct line pulled Yuan back and shouted, "Are you planning to violate the alliance treaty?" Yuan snorted at that. "I have a private grievance with him. Anyway, he said before that he isn't a member of your direct line. Our alliance treaty clearly states that you don't have the right to interfere with non-direct line factions." Yuan added, "Moreover, did I attack? Don't you see how he's besieged by a dozen elites from the collateral ancient clans? I'm going over there to help him." "Help him?" The direct line expert was startled. Based on her attitude, it looked nothing like she was going to help. Before the expert could say anything else, several elites from the Ji family rushed forward and started fighting the expert. Yuan withdrew from the scene and secretly approached the black-robed man. Every spot that the black-robed man touched, not even a blade of grass grew. His attacks were very extremely vicious and countless experts from many factions died in his hands. With the black-robed man's appearance diving up the pressure, Ishuihan's situation relaxed quite a bit, and he directly advanced into the inner circle of the collateral ancient clans. As Yuan watched the scene, she discovered something was amiss. There was originally a power differential between the direct line and the collateral branch, but after the addition of the black-robed person, the strength of the two parties was nearly the same. Logically speaking, if both parties had similar fighting strength, the number of casualties shouldn't increase this quickly. However, under the trigger of the black-robed person, the direct line's arrow was locked on the bow already, and they could only continue to exhaust their fighting force in this manner. Yuan could tell both the direct line and the collateral branch were suffering unspeakably. If you continue to fight like this, even if we win, how many people will we have left? Jiang Ying said to the black-robed person using a walkie-talkie. Jiang Ying was incredibly dissatisfied about the black-robed person's fighting method. Clan leader Jiang, the black-robed person answered with a snort. As they say, don't doubt people you use and don't use people you doubt. Since you chose me, you should trust me, shouldn't you? I'm not doubting you, but with a tactic like yours, what's the point even if we defeated the collateral branch? Jiang Ying retorted with a frown. The black-robed man's combat strategy was too radical. What the direct line wanted was to defeat the collateral branch and claim dominance over the independent state. However, the black-robed man's strategy would clearly lead to them perishing together with the collateral branch. Ha! The black-robed man chuckled. Clan leader Jiang, don't worry. Right now, I possess the battle command over the direct line. You just need to quietly watch my performance. I'll definitely give you a satisfying outcome, I hope so, Jiang Ying replied. Right now, whether it was the groups supporting the direct line or the factions supporting the collateral branch, they were all afraid and angry with the black-robed man. Both familiar and unfamiliar, the black-robed man's fighting technique didn't allow any chance of survival for other people, not even the direct line. Did he want to take every group in the independent state, including the direct line and the collateral branch, down with him? Yuan watched the black-robed man. This man was truly too dangerous and was a radical and belligerent character. He didn't care about the fate of the direct line he was leading at all. The battle intensified as time passed. Every faction in the independent state sustained heavy losses. Neither the direct line nor the collateral branch gained a trace of advantage and reaped nothing but enormous losses. If they continued to fight like this, every person would be killed, and at that time, the independent state would turn into an empty shell. All the factions started to sway and started to regard the black-robed man as an enemy. Even people from the direct line were unwilling to listen to the black-robed man's supposed combat strategy or lend a hand when the black-robed man was besieged. At this moment, the black-robed man was completely surrounded by a dozen or so experts from the collateral ancient clans. However, while these experts were strong, they still couldn't subdue the black-robed man. Yuan couldn't help but shake her head. Where the heck did these experts come from? There were a dozen of them, but they couldn't even win against one person. Blah. 12 versus 1. How extremely shameless of you. Yuan insulted the dozen or so experts from the collateral ancient clans. I'm from the direct line side. I came to help you. As Yuan spoke, she leaped up and landed next to the black-robed man. She promptly attacked the experts of the collateral ancient clans. The dozen or so experts from the collateral ancient clans became puzzled. What in the world was Worryless Nya doing? Since you're serious, we'll fight back, an expert shouted coldly at her. They were going easy on this woman in every way they could, but she attacked extremely fiercely. Yuan didn't explain and imperceptibly surveyed the black-robed man instead. Soon, Yuan found an opportunity and the dagger in her hand ruthlessly pierced toward the black-robed man. However, the black-robed man reacted immensely quick and tilted slightly back in a fraction of a second. Although the dagger didn't take his life, it hit him with a bang, and the wooden mask over his face was knocked off by the dagger. When Yuanwan saw the remarkably familiar face under the mask, she froze in her spot and her mind turned blank, forgetting to breathe. That pretty face with an inscrutable smile was very familiar but also extremely unfamiliar. Yuanwan never expected this face to be underneath the mask. A face that she missed with every fiber of her being. "You've turned more and more astute," the man quietly commented with a smile. Nearby, the 4 great clans turned to the man. When they saw the mysterious black-robed man's true appearance, their astonishment wasn't any less than Yuanwan's. No one expected that vicious and malevolent black-robed person to have such a familiar face. A greater surprise was that this man had actually appeared and also with this identity. Just what in the world was he thinking? Why did he do something like this? What was his objective? "Ajio, that person, isn't he?" Xie Qianchuan glanced at the black-robed man near Yuanwan before quickly turning to see Yihan next to him. "Am I still the hero in your heart?" Following Xie Qianchuan's words, shock also covered Jiang Lihan's face. "Ajio. No way, right? Why is it him? What is he doing?" Xie Yihan's expression was the same as always as he looked at the black-robed man. There wasn't a single ripple in his eyes, as though he predicted this outcome already. "It appears it's time to make your decision," Xie Yihan uttered expressionlessly some time later. "Decision?" Both Xie Qianchuan and Jiang Lihan were startled. They were clueless about what decision Xie Yihan referred to. "Ajio, who is making decisions?" Xie Qianchuan asked. Xie Yihan glanced at Yuanwan in the distance and replied aloofly a moment later, "Her, me, and us." The black-robed person looked at Yuanwan, the corners of his lips turning up with an indescribable smile. "You're probably very surprised, right? Brother?" Yuanwan trembled as she stared at the black-robed man. Yuanwan never expected her to see that mighty hero in her heart again in her lifetime, especially in this kind of situation. "How about it? Look now, is brother still your hero?" Nameless Nya asked her with a light chuckle. "Damn punk, are you crazy?" Patriarch Nya shouted harshly at Nameless Nya from the crowd. Patriarch and Madame Nya both couldn't recover their wits after seeing Nameless Nya. Didn't Worryless tell them Nameless Nya accepted a big job and went abroad to do a mission? Could it be that the big job Nameless Nya supposedly accepted was assisting the Direct Line? In other words, Nameless Nya was hired by the Direct Line? "You wretched bastard, did your head get kicked by a donkey? You had the guts to accept a job from the Direct Line?" Patriarch Nya angrily cursed. Nameless Nya furrowed his brows, his icy gaze landing on Patriarch Nya. "Can you shut your mouth?" "What did you say?" Patriarch Nya was stunned. "Nameless Nya wants me to shut up." Before Patriarch Nya could respond, Yuanwan shook her head at him, signaling him to remain quiet. Patriarch Nya gritted his teeth but didn't say anything else. Yuanwan turned back to Nameless Nya. She seemed to understand something. Or perhaps she should say that the instant she saw Nameless Nya, all of her confusion dissipated. Back in China, when Nameless Nya first had someone come to steal her ring, the target was solely the ring, and there was never any intention to harm her. "Brother, in reality, you probably know this ring is a fake, right?" Yuanwan asked him. Nameless Nya smiled faintly. "What is real and what is fake? If I guessed correctly, you forged this ring yourself." Yuanwan was contemplative. "You're truly my sister." "Your guess is correct." Nameless Nya nodded. Nameless Nya's forging skills were extremely good. Back in China, when Yuanwan first met Nameless Nya, he had a stall set up on the ground, and all the valuable forged creations there were crafted by Nameless Nya himself. In reality, this ring doesn't have any relations to the Rose of Death, but that's not completely true. It's probably a lover's ring, with Ant's ring, right? Yuanwan questioned. "That's right. I made it myself," Nameless Nya confirmed with a smile. On the past surfaced in Yuanwan's mind following Nameless Nya's words. Back then, Nameless Nya left home when he was young and was sent to a distant relative, second grandma, for education purposes. Second grandma was a distant younger cousin of clan leader Ling. Although she held the same seniority as clan leader Ling, she was nearly 30 years younger than him. However, second grandma was extraordinarily talented in martial arts, was extremely courageous, and was an outstanding teacher for the younger generation. Hence, back then, clan leader Ling didn't obtain Patriarch Nya and Madame Nya's approval before sending Nameless Nya to second grandma. Second grandma was a very strict teacher. Nameless Nya underwent a lot of suffering but gained a plethora of skills. Second grandma had one daughter named Ling Miao. Ling Miao was a generation above Nameless Nya and was considered his aunt, but she was a similar age to Nameless Nya. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call those two childhood sweethearts, and they got along very well. Soon, Nameless Nya returned to the independent state but never broke contact with Ling Miao. Yi Wanwan once heard Nameless Nya mention that he and Aunt Ling Miao fell in love. The first time Yi Wanwan saw Ling Miao was actually when Ling Miao was assailed by various factions of the independent state. It was Grandpa's plot that killed Ling Miao. Grandpa used Nameless Nya's life to threaten Ling Miao, and made her meet him on her own. Yi Wanwan still vaguely remembered that Ling Miao had a very sweet and spirited appearance, but her temperament was the complete opposite. She was exceptionally apathetic, akin to a ball of ice, and very hard to get along with if you were an outsider. Before Ling Miao died, she personally handed the ring that represented the supreme power in the Rose of Death to Yi Wanwan and asked her whether Nameless Nya was safe or not. To this day, Yi Wanwan still couldn't forget Ling Miao's content expression after learning Nameless Nya wasn't in any danger. That was where Yi Wanwan's memory left off. In the past, Nameless Nya was outstanding and his intelligence wasn't inferior to Ji Shuran's. However, after her memory was replaced and she saw Nameless Nya again, he had changed. It was as if he had turned into a different person. When she returned to the independent state and restored her identity as Nameless Nya, her parents told her Nameless Nya was traumatized in the past. Now though, connecting this to the letter Ji Shuran left behind for her. The letter read, "I don't have some grand dream. I just want a plot of a good field and have a simple life, do some small business and live ordinarily." Thinking about it now, Ji Shuran used this very obscure sentence to indicate the truth. He was referring to Nameless Nya. That was why Ji Shuran reminded her in his letter to stop investigating the matter. Additionally, on Ji Shuran's shredded pieces of paper, he actually wrote down the truth and the process. Nameless Nya's personality didn't change because of a previous trauma. The truth was that he was hypnotized by Ji Shuran. It was very possible it was Ji Shuran who made Nameless Nya forget about this memory segment. But the paper also said that the hypnotism failed and he was back. What that probably meant was that Nameless Nya's willpower was too strong, so he recalled his past again. It was Ji Shuran who hypnotized you, right? Yi Wanwan asked Nameless Nya. Nameless Nya smiled faintly. I have to say that Shuran's talents in hypnotism are unparalleled. I told him I'd bring destruction on every faction in the independent state that participated in Ling Miao's massacre, but he disapproved and even hypnotized me. After the hypnotism, I forgot about her and only thought about earning money and becoming rich, as though I was possessed. Nameless Nya continued, this ring is very similar to Ling Miao's ring. It's a lover's ring that I made myself and has nothing to do with the Rose of Death. However, after I was hypnotized, I forgot about this ring too, so I took it off and tossed it somewhere in the Nya residence. Otherwise, how could you have stolen it? Chapter 2240 Yi Wanwan intently stared at Nameless Nya. After a long silence, she finally spoke. In truth, Ji Shuran's hypnotism on you lost its effect a long time ago, right? Nameless Nya nodded. Although the hypnotism was impressive, it didn't last too long in reality. It only lasted half a year. So when you came to find me in China, you weren't hypnotized anymore, Yi Wanwan proposed pensively. Nameless Nya smiled. That's right. But when I first met you in China, I merely thought you looked like worryless and really didn't recognize you. Then, just what did you come to China to find? Yi Wanwan asked. I just wanted to find you, there weren't that many reasons. And also to find the ring, of course, nameless Nye replied truthfully. Yi Wanwan didn't rebut him. The ring nameless Nye was wearing might have been crafted by him and was completely unrelated to the Rose of Death. It held enormous meaning to nameless Nye. This ring represented his relationship with Ling Miao. Yi Wanwan believed that nameless Nye absolutely wouldn't agree if she tried to use her ring to trade for his ring. Then, why did you make the direct line steal the other ring? Yi Wanwan asked him. Very simple. Nameless Nye smiled faintly. If I possessed that ring, I would be able to mobilize a lot of power and destroying the independent state would be a piece of cake. But why did you give up in the end? Yi Wanwan launched another question. Nameless Nye sank into contemplation. What else could I do? A while later, nameless Nye shook his head. You would rather die than hand it over. Should I have really killed you for that ring? I see, Yi Wanwan nodded lightly. Everything was very clear now. Back then, after Ling Miao died, nameless Nye sank into madness, wanted to avenge Ling Miao and annihilate every faction that participated in Ling Miao's encirclement. But these factions encompassed nearly all of the independent state. Nameless Nye originally sought out Ji Xiuran so that Ji Xiuran could lend him a hand, but Ji Xiuran didn't have the heart to do it and was unwilling to watch nameless Nye be in such agony, so he used hypnosis to make nameless Nye forget about that memory segment. Furthermore, Ji Xiuran changed nameless Nye's personality into a businessman who worshipped money like his life and only liked to earn money. This way, nameless Nye would be running around every day and busy with earning money, never getting tired of it. This should be considered a fortunate outcome for nameless Nye. However, what Ji Xiuran didn't expect was that nameless Nye's willpower was truly too formidable and Ji Xiuran's hypnotism lost its effect in a mere half a year. From the moment nameless Nye recalled everything, he used his disguise as the black-robed person to become the Direct Line's military counselor and helped Direct Line regain control over the independent state. The truth of the matter was now clear at a glance. The Direct Line also participated in Ling Miao's encirclement back then. The reason nameless Nye was willing to help the Direct Line was so that he could trigger the war between the Direct Line and the collateral branch as soon as possible. Nameless Nye was well aware that once the war between the Direct Line and the collateral branch began, all the factions in the independent state wouldn't be able to stay out of it and all had to participate. As for nameless Nye's true objective, it was to make the Direct Line and the collateral branch eradicate each other and perish together, including all the factions who supported the Direct Line and the collateral branch. As she thought up to this point, a layer of sweat blanketed Yi Wanwan's forehead. Chapter 2241 Illustrious Pa. Nameless Nye's plan was nearly flawless and perfect but also incredibly malicious. Normally, nameless Nye disguised himself as a greedy person, and this disguise had a clever effect in reality. No one in the independent state would set their eyes on a good-for-nothing like him. Even if he once possessed an illustrious past, people only lived in the present. Moreover, nameless Nye faked his death in the end and escaped by a nifty vanishing act. No one would expect nameless Nye to be the single-handed culprit behind this war between the Direct Line and the collateral branch. Did Nye Linglong know your identity? Yi Wanwan asked a moment later. Nameless Nye sneered and shook his head. How could she know? Nye Linglong was merely one of my chess pieces. In truth, I wanted to let her control the Nye family first, then cooperate with the martial arts union to overturn the 4 great clans so that the 4 great clans would become my trump cards and help me escape if needed. Unfortunately, Nye Linglong was too stupid. So, since you couldn't obtain the 4 great clans, you could only fake your death to deceive everyone and attempt to escape the Arbitration Council's investigation, Yi Wanwan surmised. Nameless Nye smiled. That's right. I did fake my death to deceive the Arbitration Council, but it wasn't in fear of the Arbitration Council's investigation. It concerns my future plan. If this plan succeeds, I'd target the Arbitration Council. They definitely wouldn't anticipate a dead man in hiding to be their opponent, right? Yi Wanwan wrinkled her brows. Because of her, she exposed nameless Nye's identity. If she had another chance, she wouldn't have done that. Regarding the elaborate scheme that Nameless Nya set up, Yi Wanwan wasn't too surprised since she was aware of Nameless Nya and Ling Miao's relationship. Back then, after Ji Shuran's hypnotism, Nameless Nya was clueless about that ring's history and didn't like it, so he tossed it at the Nya residence. Through the mechanisms of fate, Yi Wanwan led the Fearless Alliance to rob the Nya residence and coincidentally stole the ring that Nameless Nya left behind. Hence, all these years, Nameless Nya was not only searching for her but also searching for the lover's ring that represented his relationship with Ling Miao. Brother, let me ask you again, are you the one who killed Grandpa? Yi Wanwan walked forward so that she stood next to Nameless Nya as she asked him quietly. This was a private conversation between her and Nameless Nya. No one else could hear them. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yes or no? Is it still important now? Nameless Nya gave a vague answer. Alright, that's all I needed, Yi Wanwan replied. Before Yi Wanwan could continue, a clan leader from a collateral ancient clan angrily yelled, Clan leader Jiang, let's set aside the conflict between the direct line and the collateral branch. We'll first eradicate this little b***tard today. He was simply trying to drag every faction in the independent state down with him while he'd reap the profits. Clan leader Jiang narrowed his eyes and smirked. Perfect, that's exactly what I was thinking. No matter what, the direct line and the collateral branch came from the same source. Even if we want to determine a winner, we won't tolerate being used by other people. Soon, all the factions supporting the direct line and the collateral branch coldly turned to Nameless Nya, the murderous intent in their eyes frightening. Heh. A bunch of garbage and nobodies like you want to take my life? You? The corners of Nameless Nya's lips curled up as his eyes swept across the battlefield. Despite becoming the public enemy #1 of the entire independent state, he still didn't have any fear. Chapter 2242 Let me be your hero instead. At this moment, Nameless Nya looked like he crawled out of the deepest pits of hell. His hatred-filled eyes were akin to Odin's eyes examining the entire independent state. They had to pay a bloody price for that incident. It's time to change the independent state's rules, Nameless Nya expressionlessly said. Why can't you marry an outsider? It's truly absurd. Love is the natural course of things, how can a bunch of idiots and nobodies like you all forcefully stop it? What a joke, an elder from an ancient clan ridiculed her. These are rules that have been established since the independent state was created. Your insolence isn't allowed. That's right, we represent the supreme power of the independent state. We represent God, that's the rules. Clan leader Jiang Ying from the direct line proclaimed. Nameless Nya fell silent. A long while later, Nameless Nya slowly looked up and ran his eyes over the direct line and the collateral branch. If you're God, Nameless Nya's lips curled up. Then I am. God's taboo. Don't waste words on him. Kill him. Various factions from the independent state screamed angrily. Come, show me what you've got, Nameless Nya frostily responded, standing in his spot. Brother, Yi Wanwan's voice came from the side. Nameless Nya's spine stiffened slightly. He didn't look at his parents and younger sister, he didn't look at their gazes of extreme disappointment. After a prolonged silence, Nameless Nya aloofly turned to Yi Wanwan and said, Go back. Pretend I'm dead. Yi Wanwan scrutinized Nameless Nya for a few seconds before abruptly laying her hand over his left shoulder. This time, let me be your superhero instead. Before Nameless Nya could react, Yi Wanwan yelled toward the crowd, Are the members of the Fearless Alliance and the Rose of Death here? Here. Ear-splitting shouts were heard. Good. Yi Wanwan nodded. Now, I'll represent the Fearless Alliance and the Rose of Death and announce that we're withdrawing from the collateral branch and the direct line. Today, we'll unconditionally support Nameless Nya. Whoever dares to touch a hair on him, I'll give them a one-way ticket to hell. The elders, higher-ups, Big Dipper, and 7-Star all rushed over to Yi Wanwan's side. On the other side, the members of the Rose of Death also poured out like a nest of bees and swarmed toward Yi Wanwan. You're asking for your death, clan leader Jiang shouted, his expression enraged. Is that so? Let's try. A man's bone-chilling voice resounded through the battlefield. At some point in time, that glacial man had quietly moved next to Yuanwan, and his apathetic eyes were utterly placid. Lord Azura, the people from the direct line looked at each other with a frown. Si Yihan, what are you doing? Upon seeing this, the clan leader of the ancient Si clan yelled instantaneously. Do I need to ask you before doing something? Si Yihan retorted indifferently. Fear flitted through the clan leader's eyes, and he didn't dare to say anything more. Shit, Ajo. He's gone mad, he's gone mad. He's seriously gone mad, Jiang Lihan was astonished. The factions of prison have always belonged to the same camp. Becoming enemies with the independent state is my dream. Xie Qianchuan laughed and led Slaughter's Gate out of the crowd. Jiang Lihan exasperatedly glanced at these two lunatics before languidly strolling forward, his cutting gaze sweeping over the battlefield. If you want to play, sure. Just give us the word, and our prison will play until the end. Chapter 2243. When Jiang Lihan noticed Si Yihan's glance, he awkwardly harumphed and said, Don't thank me too much. I didn't like these lousy rules to begin with. Jiang Lihan was the type who enjoyed seeing the world embroiled in chaos, so Nameless Nye's personality surprisingly matched his taste. Yuanwan turned to Jiang Lihan and the others with surprise before looking back at Si Yihan, wishing to speak but she hesitated. Ajo, Si Yihan patted her on the head and gave her a comforting glance. It's fine. He was saying, it's fine, despite it being such a giant matter. Jiang Lihan dourly glanced at the duo from the corner of his eyes and snorted. Even if this girl wanted to pierce the heavens, you'd probably be underneath her, handing her a spear. Who dares to touch my children? After a brief silence, Patriarch Nye and Madame Nye abruptly spoke at the same time and marched toward Nameless Nye. When Nameless Nye heard his parents' voices, his pupils contracted. Nameless, Patriarch Nye looked at Nameless Nye and sighed. Back then, I did oppose your relationship with Ling family. It's not your fault. Dad was selfish and only thought about the Nye family. Dad let you down. Nameless Nye appeared a bit moved. Back then, for the sake of the Nye family's reputation, Patriarch Nye absolutely refused to let him be with the leader of the Rose of Death, Ling Miao. This ended up creating Nameless Nye's lifelong regret. Son. It's Mom's fault, Madame Nye looked at Nameless Nye with guilt written all over her face. Although second grandma was a distant relative of Patriarch Ling, that was several generations ago. They didn't have much blood relations anymore. Plus, Ling Miao was younger than Nameless Nye. However, simply because Nameless Nye technically called Ling Miao aunt, Madame Nye adamantly rejected any development between the two of them and wouldn't even allow Ling Miao to take a step inside the Nye residence. Thinking back on it now, they were wrong. If they were more reasonable, perhaps Nameless Nye wouldn't have spent the rest of his life in regret and hatred. Nameless Nye turned to Madame Nye and Patriarch, his lips slightly opening as though he wanted to say something but he ended up unable to utter anything. I'd like to see who has the guts to touch my grandson and granddaughter. At this moment, the silent Patriarch Ling suddenly stood forward. Dad, Patriarch Nye reflexively called. Who's your dad? Patriarch Nye's surname is Nye, but my surname is Ling. It'd be best if you didn't randomly claim relations. I'm just doing this for my grandchildren, Patriarch Ling said coldly with a glance at Patriarch Nye. We support the Nye family. At that moment, everyone from the Ji family also stepped forward. Damn! I represent the Shen family and support worryless Nye, support my goddess. Goddess, I love you. Eldest young master Shen acted like a loose dog and made to race toward Yuanwan. However, he was frightened into retreating several steps by a bone-chilling gaze. Don't you act so insolently here. Patriarch Shen fiercely glared at Shen Tianchen before turning to everyone with a smile. Ha! The four great clans were comrades to begin with, and the Nye family is also the head of the four great clans, so our Shen family definitely won't set ourselves against the other three clans. Similarly, to everyone from the collateral branch, the Shen family is just composed of businessmen. If you need anything, let us know. We'll definitely help to the best of our abilities, but if you want us to provide people, we don't have many. However, no one paid any attention to him. Everyone was fixated on nameless Nya and Yi Wanwan. At this moment, in a spot far away, Si Xia was watching every movement with a pair of binoculars, a devilish smile on his face. So interesting. But the fun part is at the end. See you soon. Chapter 2244. Even though they possessed 4 Titan factions like the Nye family, the Ji family, the Ling family, and prison, along with a knockoff Rose of Death, they were nothing in the face of the entire independent state. Captain. Several voices were heard from the back. Yi Wanwan got a good look at the newcomers and saw that it was Taoist devotee and Spray of Flowers leading several dozen mercenary squads that were under nameless Nye. Captain. You came back alive. Why aren't you dead? Spray of Flowers emotionally wiped his tears and snot. Yi Wanwan looked at nameless Nye, astonished. They didn't know your plan. Nameless Nye shook his head. This is a personal matter, why would I have dragged them into it? Then you're truly a good captain, Yi Wanwan responded. We heard everything, Captain. All of us support you. If anyone touches a strand of your hair today, we'll make them unable to compensate for it even if they become bankrupt. Brick-moving foreigner shouted. Captain, you concealed yourself really deep. I didn't detect anything strange despite being by your side all these years. Feng Shuani walked toward nameless Nya as he lit a cigarette and puffed out a drag of smoke. Back then, the Ling family thought nameless Nya suffered a psychological shock and lived every day in a muddled state, as he had a vastly different personality than before. That was why they sent Feng Shuani to nameless Nya. Hence, Feng Shuani hadn't thought about it too deeply. Captain, why do you want to destroy the independent state? Taoist devotee looked at nameless Nya with a peculiar and uncomprehending expression. Before nameless Nya could respond, Feng Shuani shook his head and said, Quack, you're wrong, nameless Nya doesn't want to destroy the independent state. He merely wants to make those factions who participated in the murder pay the price. Moreover, the most important point is that nameless Nya wants to reform the independent state and shed the ancient passed-down rules. Rules? Taoist devotee was startled. Ha, Feng Shuani smiled. Every leader of the Rose of Death has existed for the sake of overturning the independent state's rules and system. Since Ling Miao was the previous leader of the Rose of Death, I think nameless Nye really wants to fulfill Ling Miao's wish from when she was alive. Of course, it's not only for Ling Miao's sake. Ling Miao wasn't a citizen of the independent state, her ancestors merely had some relations to the Ling family, so even if Ling Miao didn't die, nameless Nye and Ling Miao absolutely wouldn't be able to be together with rules like this in the independent state. Taoist devotee nodded. So it's like that. I understand. One last question, who's Ling Miao? Taoist devotee, Spray of Flowers, and the others didn't know about nameless Nye's romantic history and definitely didn't know anything about Ling Miao. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Feng Shuani glanced at Taoist devotee and didn't respond. Feng Shuani turned to nameless Nye and said, Nameless Nye, I didn't expect you to be so deep. What surprises me more is that you actually want to reform the independent state. Spray of Flowers fixed his eyes on Feng Shuani. Feng Shuani's sense of justice and responsibility was the strongest amongst them. Furthermore, Captain's current methods seemed to make him an enemy of the entire independent state. Judging from Feng Shuani's attitude, he appeared to disagree with Captain. Feng Shuani, why are you talking so much crap? If you're afraid, then scram. Taoist devotee looked at Feng Shuani and said irritatedly, Captain used to give us everything he had, but you're actually betraying us at the key moment, you traitor. Chapter 2245. Submit to me. Spray of Flowers frowned. Quack, don't say that. Everyone has their own thoughts, and they merely have different positions. Even if Feng Shuani isn't willing to stand on Captain's side, I can understand. Yi Wanwan looked at Feng Shuani. It's fine even if you don't stand with brother and me, Feng Shuani. Feng Shuani took a big whiff of his cigarette before flicking the butt away and looking at nameless Nye. Help? Of course I'll help. He's my captain. If he dies, who'd pay me? Feng Shuani joined the crowd with a faint smile. A higher-up from the collateral ancient clan said to the leader of the direct line, clan leader Jiang, nameless Nye is a tough nut to crack. How about we ask Yi Shuihan for help? Jiang Ying nodded and turned to Yi Shuihan, quietly saying, Yi Shuihan, help us take care of nameless Nye. If Yi Shuihan could lend a hand, the matter would be resolved more easily. Yi Shuihan apathetically glanced at Jiang Ying. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? Jiang Ying furrowed his brows. Of course he knew that the direct line couldn't order Yi Shuihan around. He merely showed up here today in order to slaughter the collateral ancient clans. Nameless Nye didn't have a lick of connection to the collateral branch, so why would he act? How about this? I won't touch anyone from the collateral branch until you've finished taking care of him. I should be doing my just due for the direct line then, Shuihan said expressionlessly. The expressions of the people from the collateral branch didn't look too good. Yi Shuihan vehemently insisted the collateral branch killed his mother, but the collateral branch never did anything like that and didn't even know who Yi Shuihan's mother was. As Yi Wanwan watched the direct line, the collateral branch, and the other factions of the independent state setting their sights on them and gearing up, her nerves became taut. Yi Wanwan was about to place an order when a whistle was heard from the rear. Everyone reflexively turned to assess the source of the noise behind them. The newcomer was a young man with an enigmatic smile on his smile and a ferocious scar by the corner of his eye. Si Xia, Yi Wanwan was startled at the sight of Si Xia. Why did he come here at a time like this? It was very difficult for them to face these groups from the independent state to begin with. If the martial arts union joined too, a fight wouldn't even be necessary. Ha, you're all busy, Si Xia remarked with a light chuckle as his eyes swept across the battlefield. President of the martial arts union, perfect timing, these people are guilty of terrible crimes. The martial arts union is typically responsible for upholding the rules, so let's apprehend them together, a higher-up from the collateral branch said. Si Xia narrowed his eyes and shook his head with a grin. Apologies, but I'm not interested in that. Everyone was taken aback. I came here to inform you all of one matter. I hope you will all become my adorable subordinates and from today on, that we will all be a kind and loving family. Don't you think that'd be nice? Si Xia asked. What did you say? The people were stunned, and some were incredulous. The president of the martial arts union actually wanted them to submit to him? The tribe leader of the ancient Si clan couldn't help but take a good look at Si Xia. It was already a trial that this child could grow into this. Si Wutian sired quite a nice son. Chapter 2246. Do you want to know the truth? Didn't you hear me? Si Xia looked confused. Could it be? I didn't speak clearly enough, or does everyone have hearing problems? I said. I want to dominate the independent state and all of you only have two paths to take, submit or die. Take your pick. Everyone broke into guffaws. Was the president of the martial arts union's head crushed by a door? Wasn't he delusional for saying something idiotic like this here? Who do you think you are? The clan leader of the direct line mocked him. Si Xia didn't respond to him and set his gaze on Yi Shuihan. How about you come to my side and help me, Yi Shuihan? How about it? What do you think? Yi Shuihan questioned back. I think, Si Xia's lips turned up. You should be quite willing to come and help me. Before Yi Shuihan could answer, Si Xia shook his head and said, Don't be in such a hurry to reply. Yi Shuihan, I know your story. Yi Shuihan. I also know you don't know the truth. Do you really think that girl was sent by the collateral branch to assassinate you? What are you saying? Yi Shuihan's eyes glinted coldly. Do you want to know the truth? How about it? Come and help me. In exchange, I'll tell you the truth of the matter, Si Xia said with a smile. Xia added, "Oh right, I hope you will take my words seriously. Perhaps you think you can interrogate me under torture and force the truth out of me. I really can't defeat you, but I'm a lunatic. If you don't agree, you will never know the truth. How about it?" Yi Shuihan fell into silence. It was a long while before Yi Shuihan finally nodded and said, "All right, if your truth is greatly different from the one I know, I will help you." "Deal. You are a man of your words, I trust you." Xia nodded. "Do you think that girl really wanted to poison you but couldn't bear to do it after falling in love with you, which led to your mother accidentally consuming the poisoned food?" "What do you mean?" Yi Shuihan asked with a frown. "Ha! The truth was that the girl didn't love you at all to begin with. She was merely an emotionless sacrificial soldier trained from the time she was a child. People like her are brainwashed at a young age and won't fall in love or be moved at all. They only know how to follow orders. Do you know? That girl wasn't related to the collateral branch at all. Everything that happened was a result of the direct line schemes." "Bullshit!" Jiang Ying yelled furiously. However, the collateral branch was strangely silent. They weren't for anything like this, but Yi Shuihan doggedly chased after them, and after all this trouble, it turned out to be a direct line scheme. "Clan leader Jiang Ying, don't be so aggravated. Allow me to tell the whole story first," Xia said in good humor. "He's here to mislead us. Kill him." After Jiang Ying said that, several experts from the direct line were tempted to attack Xia. However, Yi Shuihan instantly stepped in front of Xia and forced the experts back. Scram! Isn't this interesting? Back then, the direct line discovered Yi Shuihan and was amazed by Yi Shuihan's martial talents. If they could obtain Yi Shuihan's assistance, they would have double the power in making a comeback to the independent state. Unfortunately, Shuihan didn't follow that route and never had any contact with the direct line. Soon, the direct line concocted a scheme, which was to frame the collateral branch using a beautiful top-notch female sacrificial soldier. The female sacrificial soldier followed the plan and feigned a chance encounter with Yi Shuihan. At that time, Yi Shuihan was experiencing his first awakening of love, so how could he escape from the hands of this perfectly trained female sacrificial soldier? Then Yi Shuihan brought the sacrificial soldier home. Later, the sacrificial soldier poisoned the food and killed his mother. "Let's bet bigger," Xia snorted. The sacrificial soldier told Yi Shuihan while sobbing that the collateral branch was afraid Yi Shuihan would join the direct line, so they purposefully sent her to assassinate Yi Shuihan, but she fell in love with Yi Shuihan, so she couldn't do it at the last minute, which caused Yi Shuihan's mother to eat the poisoned food coincidentally. Xia turned to Yi Shuihan. "Did you know? That girl didn't love you at all. She didn't have any feelings. She poisoned your mother for the sake of framing the collateral branch. This was a plot that was concocted by the direct line from the start. What an absurd joke. What proof do you have for saying something like this?" Jiang Ying harshly rebuked. "Proof? Of course I have proof." Xia immediately snapped his fingers. A second later, an elderly man from the direct line slowly walked out from his hiding spot. "It's him." Yi Wanwan was startled when she saw the elderly man. Wasn't this old guy Elder Shui, who was angered to the point of being bedridden by her? It appeared he still wasn't in good health. Yi Wanwan never expected Xia to have bribed even Elder Shui from direct line. "I can bear witness that everything the president said was 100% true. It's like this. The sacrificial soldier was raised by the direct line from a young age and underwent many years of training. I didn't agree to this plan back then since no matter what, Yi Shuihan and his mother were members of the direct line, but the majority of the higher-ups ignored my disapproval." Elder Shui sighed. "You," Jiang Ying angrily glared at Elder Shui. "Sorry, clan leader. My daughter and son-in-law, they are at the hands of the president, so I can only tell the truth." Elder Shui shook his head. Yi Wanwan turned pensive. No wonder a well-esteemed direct line higher-up like Elder Shui would side with Xia. It turned out Xia was threatening him with his daughter and his son-in-law's lives. It was you. Yi Shuihan set his gaze on the direct line members, his face so dark that ink could drip from it. Heh. Don't be in such a hurry. You'll have plenty of opportunities to seek revenge in a moment, Si Xia said to Yi Shuihan. I said earlier that I wouldn't attack until their matter is resolved, Shuihan returned. The members of the ancient Si clan started examining Si Xia. The clan leader of the ancient Si clan had a frown on his face. He didn't expect Si Wutian's child to turn into such a figure. If he did, he would have allowed Si Xia to join the Si clan. How about it? I've done justice to my position as the president of the Martial Arts Union by clearing the collateral branch's name, right? Si Xia joked to the members of the collateral ancient clans. Read more chapters at List Novel. No one answered because they all didn't know his objective. Soon, Si Xia's gaze landed on nameless Nye. Before Si Xia could say anything, Yu Wanwan shouted coldly, Si Xia, what do you want? Si Xia shook his head. Patience. I have something to tell him. Oh. I'm all ears, Nameless Nye answered. Brother Nameless, how about it? Are you interested in coming over and helping me? Si Xia asked. How about this instead, are you interested in coming over and helping me? The corners of Nameless Nye's lips turned up. No need for the hurry. Let's make a bet. I'll bet that you'll definitely come and help me. How about it? Si Xia suggested. What's the wager? Since we're betting, let's bet bigger. What do you think? Nameless Nye retorted. Sure. Since we're betting, we'll bet bigger. Let me think, what should I use for the bet? Si Xia rubbed his chin in contemplation. How about this, I'll use Ling Miao's life to bet with you. What do you think? This is fake. Nameless Nye's pupils contracted abruptly. Even Yu Wanwan was astonished. What did Si Xia's words mean? Using Ling Miao's life as a wager. Didn't Ling Miao die many years ago? Nameless Nye's smile faded. It was a long while before he said to Si Xia, what do you mean? Ling Miao's dead already. Si Xia's lips curled up in an inscrutable smile. Is she really dead? So will you bet or not? Si Xia, enough with your deceptions. Just what the heck are you doing? Yu Wanwan yelled at him. Ling Miao's death was a fact, but Si Xia was treating Ling Miao as a joke. What's the hurry? Si Xia's eyes remained fixed on Nameless Nye. In your heart, Ling Miao's dead already, but, if you're willing to come and assist me, I can bring Ling Miao back from the underworld in exchange and allow you to stay by her side. How about it? Patriarch and Madame Nye looked at each other in surprise. Ling Miao really didn't die. If she didn't die, then Nameless Nye wouldn't need to live in hatred and regret. So what you're saying is that Ling Miao isn't dead, and you know where she is. Nameless Nye gathered his emotions. That's right. I don't think you'll refuse this exchange, Nameless Nye, Si Xia said. Brother, you mustn't be deceived. Ling Miao is gone already. Yu Wanwan said to Nameless Nye. Nameless Nye nodded and didn't say anything. Si Xia, you're saying Ling Miao isn't dead, but do you have proof? Take it out and show everyone, Yu Wanwan said sarcastically. You want to see the proof? Si Xia smiled and took out a phone, throwing it at Yu Wanwan. Yu Wanwan caught the phone and looked at the photo on it. The photo was from a hospital ward, the exact hospital indistinguishable, and the woman lying on the bed, her face was deathly pale and her eyes tightly shut. It was Ling Miao without a doubt. Ling Miao. Nameless Nye frowned deeply. What do you think? Si Xia asked. Bullshit proof. Yu Wanwan pursed her lips and said to Nameless Nye, brother, this is fake. Fake? Nameless Nye was startled. That's right. It's obviously photoshopped. This is definitely fake, Yu Wanwan replied. Now that you mention it, worryless, it does look rather fake. Nameless Nye nodded quickly and set his icy gaze on Si Xia. You dared to lie to me, what? You can't even tell whether this photo is real or not. No worries, there's also a video. You can take a look yourself, Si Xia said. Yi Wanwan opened the video and pressed play. It was still the hospital room from the photo, and Ling Miao was lying on the bed, her arm hooked to 4 fluids. Her eyes were tightly shut and her breathing was even, as though she was merely asleep. If the photo was photoshopped, then this video should be adequate proof, Si Xia said. Yi Wanwan hastily said, it's fake. Si Xia furrowed his brows. This video was edited and it's all CGI. It's too fake. I was at least a golden manager back in China, so this kind of video just has mediocre special effects, Yi Wanwan said. Nonsense. Do you actually know how to inspect something? Si Xia asked. Of course I do. Like that photo, I'm certain it's fake. Yi Wanwan retorted. I'll agree, Si Xia. The more you live, the more you regress. You should at least have a bigger budget if you're going to fake something. Something like this. I can make several hundreds of these without a double anytime I want. Yi Wanwan said disdainfully. Yi Wanwan pulled Si Yihan toward her and gently asked, baby, watch this video and see if it's fake. Tell my brother or else he'll think I'm deceiving him. Si Yihan looked at the phone. Replay it, Si Yihan calmly said. Sure. Yi Wanwan nodded and replayed the video. What do you think, is it fake? It's fake, Si Yihan answered. Of course this is fake. Even old Seven knows how to make this kind of video. Big Dipper leaned over and took a look. But, this girl is seriously pretty. Those looks, tut, that figure. She's seriously like a sleeping beauty, since it's like this, there's no need to bet, Si Xia said. Bet what? If you're so capable, bring her here and let us see her in person. Or tell us which hospital she's at and we can go and see for ourselves. If it's the truth, I'll kneel down and apologize to you, Yi Wanwan said. That's right, Worryless Nye is right. Nameless Nye nodded too. No need to see her in person. Si Xia smiled faintly. The phone screen suddenly flashed. Someone was video calling them. Yi Wanwan immediately picked up the call. The vice president of the Martial Arts Union instantly appeared on the other end of the call, in that same hospital room. Vice president, let them see Ling Miao, Si Xia shouted. The vice president promptly aimed the camera at the young woman on the hospital bed. Ling Miao, nameless Nye trembled. Baby, this should also be fake, right? Video calls can also be CGI'd and faked, right? Yi Wanwan turned to Si Yihan. Si Yihan was silent for a moment before nodding. You want me to bring Ling Miao here? Do you think it's possible? Si Xia snorted at Yi Wanwan. I'm not a child. Yi Wanwan wanted to say something else but couldn't utter anything. She really couldn't continue to smother her conscience. She originally wanted to trick Si Xia into bringing Ling Miao here, but judging from the current situation, it wouldn't be an easy feat if only this guy's intelligence was the same as Big Dipper's, it would be a lot simpler. Just what happened back then? Why is Ling Miao still alive? Yi Wanwan questioned before nameless Nye could say anything. In truth, it's very simple, Si Xia responded. The arbitration council laid pressure on Grandpa and forced him to eliminate Ling Miao, so Grandpa used nameless Nye's life to threaten Ling Miao and made her meet him on her own. He also contacted nearly all of the factions in the independent state and launched a destructive attack on Ling Miao. After they got their way, everyone thought Ling Miao died. However, Ling Miao was nameless Nye's most beloved woman, after all, so Grandpa was soft-hearted in the end and rescued Ling Miao. Nameless Nye's expression shifted. Unfortunately, Ling Miao suffered serious injuries, so even though she survived, she's still lying in a hospital bed and hasn't woken up, Si Xia continued. Bring me to her. Nameless Nye looked at Si Xia. No need for the rush. I told you I'd let you see her as long as you're willing to assist me. Her current situation is very stable, Si Xia replied. Alright, I'll agree. Nameless Nye didn't waste his words.